What if the words you speak every day are not descriptions of your life, but commands shaping it in silence? What if money has never been responding to your effort, your intelligence, or your hard work, but to the language you've been using without realizing it? Most people believe wealth is created by action, by working harder, by learning more strategies, by pushing, forcing, and struggling their way forward. But the truth, hidden from most of humanity, is far more unsettling. Long before money shows up in your hands, it responds to the words forming in your mind and the sentences leaving your mouth. Every phrase you repeat about money becomes an instruction. Every inner statement becomes a signal. And over time, those signals crystallize into your financial reality with quiet precision. There exists an ancient manuscript kept out of public awareness for generations that reveals a law most people were never taught. Wealth is not attracted by effort alone. It is commanded through language, not affirmations, not blind positivity, but a specific way of speaking that aligns your nervous system, your subconscious mind, and the unseen field where all outcomes are formed. This book does not promise instant riches. It reveals something far more powerful, that before money can flow toward you, your words must stop pushing it away. As you listen, allow your mind to soften. Let these ideas pass through you slowly. You don't need to believe anything yet. Just notice the language you've been living inside. Because once you understand how words command wealth, you can never speak the same way again. And your life will never respond to you the same way either. Most people believe words are harmless. They see them as sounds that disappear the moment they are spoken. But this belief is precisely why words are so powerful. Because what you do not respect, you do not question. And what you do not question quietly controls you. From the moment you learned to speak, language began shaping your reality, not through logic or meaning, but through repetition, sentence by sentence. Your mind learned what was normal, what was possible, what was allowed. Your subconscious does not analyze language. It absorbs it. It does not understand jokes. It does not recognize exaggeration. It does not care whether you were being serious or casual. It only hears familiarity. When a sentence is repeated often enough, the subconscious accepts it as instruction. And once accepted, it begins organizing your behavior, perception, and expectations to match it. This is why words are not expressions. They are commands. Every time you speak about money, you are not describing your situation. You are reinforcing a direction. Your nervous system responds immediately, even if you are not aware of it. Notice what happens in your body when you say, "Money is stressful," or "I'm always behind," or "I'm not good with finances." There is a subtle tightening, a quiet contraction. Your breath changes before your mind reacts. This is not emotional weakness. It is conditioning. Language creates internal posture. That posture determines how you meet life. Over time, posture becomes identity, and identity quietly decides outcomes long before action ever begins. Most people believe identity is built from experience, but it is built from language. You did not arrive in this world believing money was difficult. You learned that belief through phrases spoken around you, through overheard conversations, through cultural repetition, through statements delivered with authority and emotion. The subconscious treats emotional language as law. Once installed, these sentences become the operating system of your financial life. They run silently in the background, shaping what feels realistic and what feels impossible. This is why people with similar intelligence and effort live radically different financial realities. The difference is not knowledge. It is instruction. One person has been issuing commands of limitation for decades without knowing it. The other has been issuing commands of possibility, often unconsciously. Both are being obeyed. The sacred manuscript reveals something unsettling. Reality does not argue with your words. It organizes itself around them. Your subconscious mind is not designed to challenge statements. It is designed to execute them efficiently. It does not ask whether a sentence is helpful or harmful. It only asks whether it has been repeated enough to be trusted. Once trusted, it becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. This is why people defend their limiting beliefs so passionately. When language builds identity, questioning the words feels like questioning the self. To let go of the sentence feels like losing ground, even when that sentence has been silently costing them their freedom. The manuscript does not ask you to fight your language. It asks you to notice it. Awareness is not confrontation. It is illumination. When you begin noticing how often your words contract around money, you start to see the invisible walls you've been living inside. Walls built not by awareness, but by habit. This is not about positive thinking. It is about precision. Every sentence you speak about money either opens space or closes it. There is no neutral language. Words always carry direction. Over time, direction becomes momentum. Momentum becomes reality. This is why effort without alignment feels exhausting. You are pushing forward while your words quietly pull you back. The nervous system remains in resistance, and resistance drains energy without producing expansion. The manuscript teaches that wealth does not respond to force. It responds to coherence, and coherence begins with language. Not louder words, not better affirmations, but honest awareness of the sentences already running your life. The moment language becomes visible, it loses its unconscious authority. And what loses authority becomes flexible. This is the beginning of real change. You do not need to fix anything yet. You do not need to replace any sentence yet. You only need to see. Because once you recognize that your words are not sounds, but instructions, you can never speak unconsciously again. And once language shifts from unconscious to deliberate, your life has no choice but to follow. In the next chapter, we will explore where these sentences come from, how scarcity language is installed in early life, and why most people mistake inherited programming for personal truth. For now, let this awareness settle quietly. Your words are not harmless. They are powerful, and they have been shaping your reality all along. No one is born believing that money is scarce. A child does not enter this world thinking that life is a struggle, that wealth is reserved for a few, or that survival requires constant sacrifice. These ideas are not instincts. They are learned. They are taught quietly, repeated casually, installed unconsciously. Scarcity is not a personal failure. It is a language environment. Long before you ever earned your first dollar, you were surrounded by sentences about money, conversations spoken over dinner tables, complaints whispered in moments of stress, warnings delivered with love but soaked in fear. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. You have to work hard just to get by. Be realistic. These phrases were not meant to harm you. They were meant to protect, but the subconscious does not understand intention. It understands repetition and emotional charge. And emotionally charged language becomes law. Children absorb words differently than adults. Their brains are open, suggestible, unfinished. When a sentence is repeated by authority figures, it bypasses logic and installs itself directly as truth. The child does not question the statement. They become it. This is how scarcity begins, not as belief, but as identity. Over time, these phrases form an internal narrator, a voice that comments on opportunity, desire, and possibility. This voice does not sound threatening. It sounds familiar, reasonable, even responsible. This isn't for people like us. That's too risky. You should be grateful for what you have. What most people call common sense is often inherited language. And because the language feels familiar, it feels safe. The nervous system relaxes around what it knows, even when what it knows is limiting. This is why people cling to scarcity narratives long after they stop serving them. Scarcity language is not just about money. It shapes how people relate to effort, rest, joy, and worth. When struggle is normalized through language, ease feels suspicious. When limitation is repeated as wisdom, expansion feels irresponsible. The body learns to associate abundance with danger and contraction with safety. So, when opportunity appears, hesitation arises. When ease approaches, guilt follows. When wealth becomes possible, self-sabotage activates, not because the person is broken, but because their language-trained nervous system is trying to keep them safe inside familiar boundaries. Culture reinforces this programming. Society romanticizes struggle. Hardship is praised as virtue. Exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. People who work themselves into collapse are admired, while those who move with ease are questioned. Language supports this conditioning. Nothing worth having comes easy. You have to suffer for success. If it feels easy, you're doing something wrong. These phrases create a moral relationship with money. They teach people that abundance must be earned through pain, and that receiving without struggle is somehow unethical. The subconscious absorbs this as identity-level instruction. So when someone approaches success without suffering, their own internal system resists it. They feel undeserving, uncomfortable, out of place. The language they've lived inside tells them they have crossed an invisible line. This is why people defend limitation even when it hurts them. Scarcity language becomes identity armor. It protects the self from the unknown. It creates predictability. And predictability feels safer than possibility to a conditioned nervous system. When someone challenges scarcity beliefs, it often triggers anger or dismissal, not because the new idea is wrong, but because it threatens the internal structure that has provided psychological stability. Letting go of scarcity language feels like stepping into free space without a map. So most people choose familiarity over freedom. The manuscript reveals that people do not defend scarcity because it is true. They defend it because it is known. And the subconscious prioritizes what is known over what is beneficial. This is why financial advice often fails. It tries to change behavior without addressing language. It introduces strategies into a system still running scarcity commands. The person may understand new ideas intellectually, but their internal narrator continues issuing the same old instructions. I'll probably mess this up. People like me don't get ahead. This won't last. These sentences quietly cancel progress. Scarcity language does not shout. It whispers. It sounds like caution, like realism, like humility. But its effect is powerful. It trains perception to notice threat instead of opportunity. It narrows imagination. It lowers expectation. Over time, it creates a life that feels heavy even when external circumstances improve. And because this language was inherited early, most people mistake it for their own voice. They believe these thoughts are personal insights rather than learned scripts. The manuscript invites a radical reframe. Your thoughts about money are not who you are. They are echoes of what you were taught. This does not mean blaming parents, culture, or society. It means recognizing that what was once installed for survival may no longer serve expansion. Awareness begins when you notice how automatic your responses are. When opportunity arises, what is the first sentence in your mind? When you desire something, what phrase appears immediately after? When money enters your life, what story do you tell about it? These sentences reveal the programming phase still running beneath conscious intention. Nothing needs to be changed yet. Nothing needs to be fixed. The purpose of this chapter is recognition. Because the moment you recognize inherited language, it stops being invisible. And what becomes visible can no longer operate with unconscious authority. This is where identity loosens. This is where choice begins. In the next chapter, we will move deeper into a realization that dissolves much of this tension. The understanding that wealth is not an amount to be chased, but a frequency to be embodied. For now, allow this awareness to settle. The sentences you live inside were learned, and what is learned can be unlearned, not through force, but through understanding. And understanding begins here. Most people believe wealth is a number, a balance, a target, an amount that, once reached, will finally change how life feels. But this belief quietly keeps them trapped, because money does not respond to numbers. It responds to states. To understand this, you must let go of the idea that wealth is something you accumulate and begin to sense it as something you tune into. Imagine standing in a room filled with invisible signals. Music, voices, information. Thousands of broadcasts moving through the air at the same time. None of them are audible until you turn on a radio and choose a frequency. The music does not appear because you worked harder. It appears because you tuned correctly. Wealth works the same way. Opportunities, resources, connections, and flow are always present. But you only perceive and receive what your internal frequency allows. The nervous system acts as the receiver. Identity sets the dial. This is why effort without alignment fails. People work harder, learn more strategies, and chase better outcomes. Yet nothing seems to change. They are turning the volume up on the wrong station. More effort does not correct a mismatched frequency. It amplifies distortion. This is also why sudden money often disappears. Lottery winners are the clearest example. They receive wealth without the internal frequency to hold it. Their identity remains unchanged. Their language remains rooted in scarcity. Their nervous system does not feel safe with abundance. So the money leaks away. It is spent impulsively, lost through poor decisions, destroyed through unconscious sabotage. From the outside, it looks like bad luck. From the inside, it is mismatch. Wealth cannot stay where it does not belong. When money enters a system that has not learned to receive it, the system rejects it, the same way a body rejects a foreign substance. Stress increases. Anxiety rises. Old patterns return. The identity restores equilibrium. This is not failure. It is regulation. The manuscript explains that wealth is not sustained by intelligence or discipline alone. It is sustained by coherence. When your language, nervous system, and self-image agree with abundance, money feels natural. When they do not, money feels threatening, and the nervous system will always choose safety over expansion. This is why two people can earn the same income and experience entirely different lives. One feels constantly behind. The other feels supported. The difference is not the amount. It is the frequency through which the amount is experienced. Frequency is not mystical. It is physiological. Your breath, your posture, your inner dialogue. These signals tell your body whether life is scarce or sufficient. When the body feels threatened, it contracts. When it feels safe, it opens. Wealth moves toward openness. Not because openness attracts money magically, but because openness allows perception. It allows choice. It allows calm decisions instead of reactive ones. And calm decisions compound. Struggle, on the other hand, tightens the system. When you approach money from urgency, fear, or desperation, your frequency signals lack. The body enters survival mode. Vision narrows. Creativity collapses. Risk tolerance disappears. You may still act, but you act from contraction. And contraction repels flow. The manuscript reveals a quiet paradox. The people who fight hardest for money often push it away, while those who remain grounded seem to receive it more easily. This is not because they care less. It is because their identity is not dependent on the outcome. They are tuned to sufficiency first. This does not mean passivity. It means stability. Stability allows wealth to circulate. When money enters a calm system, it stays longer. It is invested with clarity. It multiplies naturally. It moves without panic. This is why frequency must precede action. Action taken from scarcity produces more scarcity. Action taken from alignment produces momentum. The same behavior yields different outcomes depending on the state from which it originates. People often misunderstand this and assume the message is to feel rich or pretend abundance. That is not what the manuscript teaches. It teaches congruence. Your internal state must match the reality you want to hold. This is why wealth cannot be forced through willpower alone. Willpower is temporary. Identity is persistent. When willpower fades, identity remains. The manuscript explains that money responds to consistency, not intensity. A stable frequency is more powerful than a desperate surge. Calm expectancy outperforms frantic effort every time. This is why wealthy individuals often appear relaxed even when handling large sums or significant risk. Their nervous system has learned that abundance is safe. Their language reflects trust rather than urgency. They do not speak as if money is fragile. They do not treat opportunity as rare. They do not cling. And because they do not cling, flow continues. Wealth is not impressed by struggle. It is drawn to coherence. When your words say one thing but your body signals another, the system defaults to the body. When your language speaks abundance but your nervous system feels threatened, money senses contradiction, and contradiction creates resistance. This is why awareness of frequency is so important. It shifts the focus from chasing outcomes to stabilizing states, from fixing numbers to aligning identity. Once frequency is understood, many old frustrations dissolve. You stop asking, "Why isn't this working?" and begin noticing, "What state am I operating from?" This question alone changes everything. The manuscript does not encourage obsession with money. It encourages neutrality. When money is no longer charged with fear or longing, it moves freely. When it is loaded with emotional urgency, it becomes heavy and slow. Wealth flows toward those who do not need it to feel whole. This is not detachment from responsibility. It is detachment from desperation. In the next chapter, we will explore why struggle itself creates resistance, how effort can become counterproductive, and why the nervous system must feel safe before prosperity can arrive. For now, allow this understanding to settle. Money is not something you reach. It is something you tune into. And tuning begins within. Most people were taught that struggle is noble, that if you are tired, stressed, and constantly pushing yourself, you must be doing something right. That effort is proof of worth, and exhaustion is evidence of commitment. But the manuscript reveals a truth that feels uncomfortable at first. Struggle does not attract wealth. It repels it. This does not mean effort is bad. It means effort coming from tension creates resistance. There is a profound difference between movement and force, between aligned effort and desperate striving. From the outside, they may look similar. From the inside, they feel completely different. Struggle feels tight. Flow feels open. When you struggle, your body enters a state of contraction. Breathing becomes shallow. Muscles tighten. The nervous system shifts into survival mode. In this state, your entire system is focused on avoiding loss, not allowing expansion. Money does not move easily toward a system in survival. Not because money has emotions, but because survival mode narrows perception. It reduces creativity. It limits options. It causes you to miss opportunities that require calm attention to notice. This is why people who are desperate often make poor financial decisions, not because they are unintelligent, but because desperation hijacks the nervous system. Struggle creates urgency. Urgency creates tunnel vision. Tunnel vision blocks flow. The manuscript uses a simple but powerful distinction: chasing versus attracting. When you chase something, your energy is projected outward aggressively. You are trying to grab, secure, control. This energy carries a message: I don't have enough. That message is felt by people, by circumstances, by life itself. Now consider a magnet. A magnet does not run after metal. It does not strain or pursue. It simply holds its state. And metal responds naturally. This is how wealth moves. Wealth flows toward coherence, not tension; toward stability, not panic; toward systems that can receive without collapsing under pressure. When you are struggling, your language reflects it. I have to make this work. I can't afford to fail. If this doesn't happen, I'm in trouble. These sentences are not motivation. They are signals of threat. Your nervous system hears danger and responds accordingly. It prepares for defense, not reception. And in that state, even good opportunities feel overwhelming or risky. This is why struggle is self-reinforcing. The more you struggle, the more your body believes resources are scarce. The more it believes resources are scarce, the more it tightens. And the tighter it becomes, the less it can receive. People often confuse this with discipline. But discipline is calm. Struggle is frantic. Aligned effort feels focused, not desperate. It feels steady, not urgent. It may be challenging, but it does not feel like self-betrayal. The manuscript emphasizes that wealth responds to relaxed certainty, a state where you are committed without being clenched, where you are moving forward without gripping the outcome. This state allows the nervous system to remain open, and openness is essential. Money moves through people, through conversations, timing, collaboration, and trust. When your body signals stress, others feel it. They pull back unconsciously. Opportunities stall. Negotiations tighten. Not because the world is cruel, but because tension disrupts flow. This is why people who release struggle often experience sudden shifts, not because they stopped caring, but because they stopped fighting reality. They moved from forcing to allowing. Allowing does not mean waiting passively. It means acting without panic. When your nervous system feels safe, your mind becomes clearer. You see options you missed before. You make choices that compound rather than cancel progress. You recognize alignment instead of chasing relief. This is the liberation the manuscript offers. You do not need to suffer to deserve wealth. You do not need to exhaust yourself to be worthy of receiving. Struggle is not a prerequisite. It is a signal that something is misaligned. When effort feels like punishment, it is often an indication that language, identity, and action are pulling in different directions. The system is fighting itself. The manuscript invites a different posture, one where effort flows from clarity rather than fear, where work feels purposeful rather than draining, where movement feels supported rather than resisted. This posture changes everything. When struggle dissolves, guilt often surfaces. Many people feel uneasy letting go of hardship. They have been taught that ease is laziness and rest is weakness. But ease is not the absence of effort. It is the absence of resistance. Wealth moves toward systems that do not fight it. When you release the belief that struggle proves worth, your body softens, your language changes, your expectations stabilize, and in that stability, wealth finds room to enter. In the next chapter, we will go deeper into how words directly shape the nervous system, how spoken language installs identity at a physiological level, and why changing words is not cosmetic. It is structural. For now, allow this realization to settle. You are not meant to chase wealth through exhaustion. You are meant to receive it through alignment. And alignment begins where struggle ends. Words do not stay in the mind. They travel. They move through the body, through the nervous system, through patterns of tension and release that shape how you experience the world. This is why language is not abstract. It is physical. Every word you repeat creates a pathway. Inside the brain, repetition strengthens connections. Neural circuits that fire together begin to wire together. Over time, these circuits become default routes. Automatic responses that activate before conscious thought has a chance to intervene. This is how language becomes identity. When a phrase is repeated often enough, the brain stops questioning it. It treats the sentence as a fact and builds behavior around it. Attention is filtered. Memory is biased. Decision-making follows the path of least resistance. The nervous system learns what to expect. This is why words spoken aloud carry special weight. Speaking engages more of the body than thinking. Breath, sound, vibration, these elements activate sensory systems that deepen the imprint. The body listens more closely when the voice is involved. A thought passes quietly. A spoken word lands. The nervous system responds immediately. Muscles adjust. Breathing shifts. The body prepares to act in accordance with what has been declared. When someone repeatedly says, "I'm always struggling," the body learns to live in readiness for threat. When someone says, "Money never stays with me," the nervous system anticipates loss before gain even arrives. This anticipation shapes behavior long before opportunity appears. Words do not simply describe experience. They prepare the body for it. Over time, this preparation becomes automatic. The nervous system begins responding to imagined scenarios as if they were real. Stress hormones rise. Focus narrows. Creativity drops. The system chooses safety over expansion. This is why people feel anxious around money even when nothing is wrong. Their bodies have been trained by language to expect danger. The manuscript explains that identity is installed, sentence by sentence, not through one dramatic declaration, but through thousands of small, familiar phrases repeated across years. "I'm bad with numbers. I always mess this up. People like me don't get ahead." Each sentence lays another brick. Eventually, the structure feels solid, permanent, inevitable. But structures built from language can be rebuilt, not by force, by understanding the mechanism. When you understand that words shape neural pathways, you stop treating language casually. You begin to see it as architecture. Every phrase reinforces or weakens a pattern. This does not require constant vigilance. It requires awareness. Awareness creates interruption. Interruption creates choice. The manuscript emphasizes that change does not come from fighting old language. Fighting reinforces it. Resistance strengthens what you oppose. Instead, change begins by noticing the bodily response to words. Notice what happens when a familiar phrase arises. The tightening, the sinking feeling, the subtle collapse of possibility. This sensation is not emotional drama. It is neurological feedback. The body is responding to a command it has heard before. And here is the crucial realization. If words can train the nervous system into contraction, they can also train it into openness. Not through exaggeration or denial, but through consistency. The nervous system learns safety through repetition, just as it learned threat. When language becomes less reactive, the body follows. Breathing slows. Shoulders soften. Attention widens. In this state, perception changes. Opportunities that were invisible become noticeable. Choices feel less urgent. Decisions are made with clarity instead of panic. The same external conditions produce different outcomes because the internal system has shifted. This is why changing language is not cosmetic. It is structural. Words reshape how you meet life. They rewire how you interpret experience. They recalibrate what feels possible. The manuscript makes it clear that wealth cannot be held by a nervous system trained for survival. Survival mode consumes resources. It is designed to get through danger, not to allow growth. When language teaches the body that money is threatening, receiving feels unsafe, and the body will reject what it cannot hold safely. This is why so many people sabotage success just as it begins. Their language-trained nervous system has not learned how to relax in abundance. Relaxation is not laziness. It is capacity. A relaxed system can hold more opportunity, more responsibility, more flow. As language shifts from contraction to stability, the nervous system adapts. New pathways form. Old patterns weaken. Identity becomes less rigid. And rigidity is what blocks wealth most effectively. The manuscript does not rush this process. It understands that the nervous system changes through gentle repetition, not sudden force. It respects the body's need for safety. This is why awareness always comes before replacement. Before words are changed, they must be seen. Before patterns are altered, they must be felt. Once the mechanism is understood, transformation becomes inevitable. Not dramatic, not instant, but steady. The nervous system begins to trust new signals. Language becomes less charged. Identity loosens its grip. And when identity loosens, life has room to reorganize. In the next chapter, we will explore how subtle shifts in language open space rather than close it, and how certain phrases quietly dissolve resistance without triggering the nervous system's defenses. For now, allow this understanding to settle. Your words are not habits. They are instructions. And your nervous system has been listening carefully all along. Once you understand that words shape the nervous system, something subtle begins to change. You start noticing language before it fully leaves your mouth. A familiar sentence rises and pauses. This pause is powerful, because it is the moment where unconscious habit loosens and awareness steps in. not to fight the sentence, not to correct it aggressively, simply to observe it. The manuscript describes this moment as the opening. Most people think change requires force, but force triggers resistance. The nervous system tightens when it feels pushed. Language becomes defensive. Identity hardens. The sacred shift does not push. It opens. This is why the manuscript never instructs people to lie to themselves or repeat phrases that feel false. False language creates internal conflict. The body senses contradiction and responds with tension. Instead, the shift happens through language that creates space. Consider the difference between closing and opening sentences. A closing sentence sounds final. I can't afford that. There's no way. This always happens to me. These phrases shut down possibility instantly. The nervous system hears a dead end. Exploration stops. Creativity disengages. An opening sentence feels different. It does not deny reality. It does not promise miracles. It simply removes the lock. How might this be possible? That's not available to me yet. I'm learning a new relationship with money. Notice the body's response. The chest softens. The breath deepens slightly. The mind remains curious instead of defensive. Nothing magical happened. No affirmations were spoken. No fantasy was created. Space was opened. This is the sacred function of language. Not to command outcomes directly, but to remove resistance so outcomes can arrive naturally. The manuscript emphasizes that the subconscious resists absolutes. Absolute language freezes identity. When you say never, always, or impossible, the nervous system treats the statement as final. Finality creates rigidity. Rigidity blocks flow. Language that includes time, learning, or possibility keeps the system flexible. Flexibility allows adaptation, and adaptation is essential for wealth. Wealth does not arrive through fixed identity. It arrives through responsive identity. This is why the manuscript recommends subtle reformulations rather than dramatic declarations. The nervous system trusts gentle shifts. It relaxes into them. For example, the difference between saying, "I'm bad with money," and "I'm becoming more aware of how I handle money," may seem small, but the internal effect is profound. The first locks identity. The second opens evolution. One sentence collapses the future. The other invites it. The manuscript reveals that the subconscious responds more powerfully to direction than to demand. When language suggests movement instead of verdict, the system aligns naturally. This is why questions are so powerful. Questions activate curiosity. Curiosity activates intelligence. When you ask, "How could this work?" the brain begins searching for answers. When you declare, "This won't work," the search ends. The nervous system relaxes into inquiry. And inquiry is creative. This does not mean constantly questioning everything. It means allowing language to guide the system forward instead of pinning it to the past. The sacred shift is not about saying more. It is about saying less with greater precision. Language becomes quieter, more intentional, less reactive. As this happens, emotional charge drains from money-related thoughts. What once triggered fear becomes neutral. Neutrality is powerful. When money no longer feels threatening, the body stops bracing against it. When the body stops bracing, opportunities feel manageable instead of overwhelming. This is where flow begins. The manuscript teaches that wealth does not enter through forceful declaration, but through relaxed receptivity. Language prepares the ground. You are not commanding money directly. You are commanding the conditions that allow money to move. This distinction matters. Trying to command outcomes creates pressure. Commanding openness creates alignment, and alignment does the rest. Over time, these subtle shifts accumulate. Identity softens. Expectations recalibrate. The nervous system learns that expansion is safe, and safety is the true gatekeeper of abundance. This chapter is not asking you to memorize phrases or correct yourself constantly. That would create tension. Instead, it invites a gentle awareness of the tone beneath your words. Is it closing or opening? That is enough. In the next chapter, we will explore a deeper principle behind this openness. The void state, where releasing attachment creates a powerful magnetic pull without effort or struggle. For now, let this understanding settle quietly. Your language does not need to be perfect. It needs to be spacious. And in space, wealth moves naturally. There is a moment in every journey toward wealth where effort stops working. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because effort has reached its limit. Beyond that limit, pushing harder only creates more resistance. The manuscript describes this moment not as failure, but as a signal that it is time to shift states. This shift is called the void. The void is not emptiness in the sense of loss. It is emptiness in the sense of space. A deliberate release of inner tension that creates room for something new to enter. Most people misunderstand this completely. They believe letting go means giving up, becoming passive, or lowering expectations. The manuscript teaches the opposite. Letting go is not disengagement. It is detachment from desperation. Desperation is one of the strongest signals of lack. It communicates urgency, fear, and contraction to the nervous system. When the body is desperate, it tightens. When it tightens, it blocks flow. Not intentionally, but automatically. This is why chasing wealth so often pushes it further away. Imagine trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more slips through your fingers. Relax your hand, and the water rests naturally in your palm. Money behaves the same way. When your identity is wrapped around needing a specific outcome, every interaction carries pressure. Conversations feel heavy. Decisions feel urgent. Timing feels critical. The body is constantly bracing for loss. The manuscript explains that wealth responds not to effort alone, but to energetic posture. And desperation creates a posture of lack. The void is the posture of receiving. Receiving does not mean waiting. It means being internally available. It means acting without gripping the outcome. It means allowing life to respond instead of trying to control every variable. This state feels unfamiliar to many people because they were taught that control equals safety. That if they stop pushing, everything will fall apart. But this belief is itself a product of scarcity language. The void is not collapse. it is coherence. In the void, the nervous system is calm but alert. Breath is steady. Muscles are relaxed, not limp. The mind is focused without being frantic. This state allows perception to widen. Widened perception is critical. Opportunities rarely announce themselves loudly. They arrive subtly, through timing, through conversations, through unexpected connections. A contracted system misses these signals entirely. A receptive system notices them naturally. This is why people often report that things just start working once they stop forcing outcomes. Nothing magical has occurred. The system has simply moved out of its own way. The manuscript uses a powerful metaphor to describe this shift. Most people live like rowers. They sit in a small boat, gripping the oars tightly, fighting the current with everything they have. They make progress, but slowly. Every meter costs energy. Exhaustion becomes normal. Burnout is inevitable. Others live like sailors. They still move. They still adjust. They still work. But instead of fighting the current, they read it. They adjust their sails. They allow invisible forces to carry them forward. Both are active. One is aligned. The difference is not effort. It is relationship. The rower believes force creates results. The sailor understands flow. The void is the sailor's state. When you release the need to control how money arrives, you stop rowing against invisible currents. You begin noticing patterns. Timing improves. Effort becomes more efficient. This is why wealth often arrives through unexpected channels. When identity loosens its grip on specific outcomes, life has more options. It is no longer confined to the narrow path you were forcing. The manuscript emphasizes that attachment creates blindness. When you need something to happen in a particular way, you stop seeing alternatives. You miss invitations that do not match your expectations. The void restores vision. This does not mean abandoning intention. The void holds clarity without tension, desire without desperation, direction without force. This combination is rare, and it is powerful. Most people oscillate between wanting and worrying, between hope and fear. The nervous system never stabilizes. It never signals safety. And without safety, abundance cannot stay. The void teaches the body that it is safe to receive. When safety is present, the body stops sabotaging. It stops rushing. It stops overcorrecting. Decisions become cleaner. Communication becomes calmer. Trust increases. Trust is not blind faith. It is nervous system stability. When you trust, your system is no longer scanning constantly for threat. Energy that was wasted on vigilance becomes available for creativity, connection, and insight. This is why releasing attachment often precedes sudden breakthroughs, not because the universe rewards detachment, but because detachment removes internal interference. The manuscript is clear: wealth is intelligent. It flows towards systems that can hold it, systems that are not frantic, systems that are not brittle, systems that do not collapse under pressure. The void builds capacity. Capacity is not created through strain. It is created through spaciousness. When you stop clinging, you stop broadcasting lack. When lack is no longer broadcast, Reality reorganizes. People respond differently. Circumstances shift subtly. Timing aligns. This is not manipulation. It is resonance. The void state feels calm, but it is not passive. There is still movement, still learning, still action. But the action emerges from clarity rather than panic. This is why the manuscript insists that receiving is an active skill. It must be learned. And like all skills, it feels awkward at first. Many people feel guilt when they stop struggling. They equate ease with laziness. They worry that if they relax, they will lose momentum. This fear is understandable. It is also misplaced. Ease does not destroy momentum. It refines it. When you are no longer fighting yourself, energy consolidates. Progress accelerates. Life stops feeling like an uphill battle. The void is not something you enter once and stay in forever. It is a state you return to repeatedly. Each return deepens trust. Each return builds stability. Over time, the nervous system learns that expansion does not require danger. Receiving does not require suffering. Wealth does not require self-betrayal. This learning changes everything. The void becomes familiar. Familiarity becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. In the next chapter, we will explore how this receiving state transforms your relationship with self-worth, and why identity must shift before income can stabilize. For now, allow the idea of the void to settle gently. You do not need to chase what is meant to flow toward you. You only need to stop blocking it. And the first block to dissolve is desperation. In space, wealth moves, and the void is where space begins, before money ever becomes a number in your account. It becomes a statement about who you believe you are. This truth is uncomfortable for many people, because it shifts the focus away from systems, strategies, and external obstacles, and turns attention inward to identity. Most people believe income creates confidence. The manuscript reveals the opposite. Confidence creates capacity. Capacity determines income. Your financial life is not responding to what you want. It is responding to what feels congruent with your sense of self. If deep down you believe you are undeserving, money feels unsafe. If you believe you must struggle to be worthy, ease feels suspicious. If you believe abundance would change you into someone unrecognizable, success triggers internal conflict, and conflict always sabotages flow. This is why money often behaves like a mirror. It reflects back the value you assign to yourself, not the value you claim publicly, but the value you feel privately. The quiet conclusions you've drawn about your worth, the subtle judgments you carry about who is allowed to receive and who must earn through suffering. The manuscript describes money as a neutral amplifier. It does not judge. It magnifies. Whatever identity you hold becomes more visible through your financial reality. If you see yourself as capable, resources seem to appear. If you see yourself as small, money highlights that belief with precision. This is not punishment. It is feedback. Most people avoid this realization because it feels heavy with responsibility. It removes the comfort of blaming circumstances and replaces it with something more challenging: honesty. But honesty is liberating. When you recognize that income stabilizes at the level of identity, you stop chasing numbers and start listening to the deeper story you are telling about yourself. Consider how people speak when no one else is listening. The inner voice, the background commentary. I'm not good at this. I don't deserve that. People like me don't get ahead. These sentences are rarely shouted. They are whispered. And because they are whispered, they feel true. The subconscious treats them as identity markers. This is why sudden success often collapses. The external reality outpaces the internal self-image. The nervous system panics. Old language resurfaces. Self-sabotage restores equilibrium. The system returns to what feels familiar. The manuscript explains that wealth must feel safe at the level of identity. Without this safety, abundance triggers anxiety instead of relief. Responsibility feels overwhelming. Expansion feels threatening. So the system rejects what it cannot integrate. This is why working on self-worth is not optional. It is structural. Wealth cannot stay where it contradicts identity. Many people carry a hidden moral conflict with money. They associate wealth with greed, disconnection, or corruption. These beliefs often come from childhood stories, cultural narratives, or misinterpreted teachings. If you're rich, you're selfish. Money changes people. Good people don't care about wealth. These phrases plant a dangerous seed. They create an internal dilemma: remain good and struggle, or prosper and become someone you despise. The subconscious will always choose moral safety over financial expansion, so it quietly limits success. The manuscript reveals that money itself is neutral. It takes the shape of the consciousness holding it. Wealth does not corrupt. It amplifies. If generosity is present, money expands it. If fear is present, money magnifies it. This understanding dissolves the moral conflict. You do not become something else when you receive wealth. You become more of who you already are. When identity aligns with worthiness, receiving feels natural. There is no internal argument, no guilt, no need to self-sabotage. Worthiness is not arrogance. It is permission. Permission to exist fully. Permission to receive without apology. Permission to expand without self-punishment. The manuscript emphasizes that worthiness is not earned. It is recognized. It is the remembrance that your value does not depend on struggle. When this recognition settles into the nervous system, something profound shifts. Decisions are made from clarity instead of fear. Boundaries strengthen. Opportunities are evaluated calmly. Money responds to this stability. This is why some people seem to attract support effortlessly. They are not more deserving. They are more aligned with their own value. Their language reflects this alignment. Their posture communicates it. Their presence signals coherence. Coherence is attractive. Life moves towards systems that are not in conflict with themselves. The manuscript teaches that healing identity is not about affirmations shouted into resistance. It is about quiet recalibration, gentle consistency, language that reinforces worth without exaggeration. I am allowed to receive. I do not need to suffer to be worthy. My value does not disappear when things become easier. These are not spells. They are permissions. As identity softens, The nervous system relaxes. As the nervous system relaxes, capacity increases. And as capacity increases, wealth has room to stay. This is why identity must precede income, not as philosophy, as function. In the next chapter, we will explore how this identity shift transforms action itself, how aligned effort replaces struggle, and why becoming the receiver changes everything about how money moves toward you. For now, let this understanding settle. You do not need to become someone else to be wealthy. You need to stop believing you are someone who must struggle to deserve it. And that belief begins to dissolve here. There is a point where understanding becomes embodiment. You no longer think about wealth as something outside of you. You begin to feel it as a state you move from. This is what the manuscript calls becoming the receiver. Most people believe receiving is passive, that it means waiting, hoping, or doing nothing. But receiving, in its true form, is one of the most active internal states a human can cultivate. Receiving is openness without desperation, movement without tension, action without force. When you become the receiver, effort changes its quality. You still act. You still create. You still engage with the world. But the energy behind your actions is no longer strained. Strain collapses intelligence. Receptivity expands it. This is why aligned effort produces results that struggle never could. The same action, taken from a different internal state, generates a completely different outcome. The manuscript explains that most people act from a place of lack. They are trying to get something they believe is missing. Their actions are loaded with urgency. Every step is heavy with expectation. This energy is felt. People sense it in conversations. Opportunities feel pressured. Timing feels off. When you act as a receiver, the signal changes. Your body is not chasing relief. It is expressing alignment. Your actions become invitations rather than demands. This is why wealthy individuals often appear calm, even when making significant decisions. They are not gambling for survival. They are responding from sufficiency. Sufficiency does not mean you have everything. It means you are not operating from fear of not having. Fear distorts perception. When fear is present, the mind narrows. Options disappear. Creativity collapses. You choose what feels safest, not what is most aligned. Over time, these small choices compound into stagnation. The receiver state restores clarity. In this state, you are not trying to prove your worth. You are not trying to justify your existence. You are not trying to outrun scarcity. You are simply participating. Participation feels lighter. It feels cleaner. It feels sustainable. This is why the manuscript emphasizes that becoming the receiver is not a single decision, but a practiced identity. The nervous system must learn that it is safe to allow support, opportunity, and ease. Many people unconsciously reject help. They feel uncomfortable being supported. Compliments make them uneasy. Opportunities trigger suspicion. This is not humility. It is unworthiness disguised as virtue. Receiving requires self-trust. Trust that you can hold what comes. Trust that ease will not destroy you. Trust that abundance will not make you lose yourself. When this trust is absent, the system sabotages. It delays. It complicates. It creates problems where none are needed. The manuscript reveals that wealth moves toward those who can receive without collapsing into guilt or fear. Money wants stability. It wants a container that does not leak through anxiety. The receiver is such a container. As identity shifts into receiving, action becomes more precise. You stop scattering energy. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop chasing what does not fit. Discernment sharpens. You begin noticing which actions expand you and which drain you. You choose alignment over approval, depth over noise, resonance over urgency. This is where effort becomes elegant. Aligned effort does not exhaust the body. It challenges it, but it also nourishes it. Time feels different. Focus deepens. Even difficult tasks carry a sense of meaning rather than resistance. This is the signature of receiving. You are no longer fighting life. You are cooperating with it. The manuscript describes this state as standing in the current rather than swimming against it. The current does not remove effort. It amplifies it. A small movement carries you far. This is why people often say that once things begin to flow, they cannot believe how hard they used to push. The memory of struggle fades because it no longer makes sense from the new vantage point. Receiving recalibrates what feels normal. Normal becomes calm. Normal becomes supported. Normal becomes expansive. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means challenges are met without collapse, without identity crisis, without panic. The receiver does not interpret difficulty as failure. Difficulty becomes information, feedback, a signal to adjust rather than a reason to self-punish. This mindset stabilizes wealth. Money stays where it is not dramatized, where it is neither worshipped nor feared, where it is treated as a flow rather than a verdict. The manuscript is clear: becoming the receiver is not about doing less. It is about doing differently. When you act from receiving, you are not chasing approval. You are offering value. You are not forcing outcomes. You are allowing response. This subtle shift changes everything. People respond more openly. Timing aligns. Support appears naturally. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because you are no longer blocking what was already moving toward you. In the next chapter, we will bring everything together: language, frequency, identity, and receiving into a final remembrance. A quiet realization that wealth was never something to be created from nothing, but something to be uncovered beneath layers of conditioning. For now, let this chapter settle gently. You do not need to run after abundance. You need to become someone who can receive it. And receiving begins the moment you stop proving and start allowing. At the deepest level, this journey was never about money. Money was the doorway. Language was the key. But what you were always being led toward was remembrance. The manuscript makes this clear in its final teaching. Wealth is not something you create from nothing. It is something you allow by removing what was blocking it. You were not born lacking. You were taught to forget abundance. Before language shaped your identity, before scarcity was repeated into your nervous system, before struggle became normal, there was a natural state of sufficiency, a quiet knowing that life supports life. That knowing did not disappear. It was buried. Buried beneath sentences you did not choose, beliefs you inherited, fears passed down as protection. Over time, these layers formed an identity that felt real, convincing, solid, and because it felt real, you lived inside it without question. The manuscript reveals that identity is not who you are, it is who you learn to be. And what is learned can be released. This is why language is so powerful. It is both the cage and the key. The same mechanism that installed limitation can restore freedom when used consciously. As your words softened, your nervous system followed. As your frequency stabilized, resistance dissolved. As your identity loosened, receiving became natural. Nothing external needed to be forced. Wealth did not suddenly appear because you asked louder or worked harder. It began moving because you stopped blocking it. This is the great inversion the manuscript offers. You do not chase abundance. You stop pushing it away. The struggle that once defined your life was never a requirement. It was feedback, a signal that you were rowing against your own nature, fighting currents that were never meant to be resisted. When you released struggle, you did not become weak. You became coherent. And coherence is powerful. Coherence is when your words, body, and identity speak the same language. When there is no inner contradiction, no self-sabotage, no quiet voice undermining what you consciously desire. In coherence, life responds smoothly. Money flows where it is not dramatized. Opportunity appears where it is not feared. Support arrives where it is allowed. The manuscript does not end with promises. It ends with recognition. You were never separate from abundance. You were temporarily convinced that you were. Every limitation you experienced served one purpose: to bring you here. To this awareness, to this remembering. The desire for wealth was not greed. It was guidance. A signal pointing you back toward alignment with your own nature. Toward expansion. Toward life expressing itself more fully through you. This is why money feels charged. It touches identity, worth, safety, freedom. But once these layers are seen clearly, money returns to what it has always been. A flow, a tool, a mirror. It reflects the state you inhabit. When you remember who you are, the mirror changes, not because reality bends to wishful thinking, but because the system is no longer confused by contradiction. The signal becomes clean. This remembrance does not require constant effort. It deepens naturally. Each time you speak with awareness, each time you choose openness over contraction, each time you release the need to prove, the more you live from this state, the more ordinary abundance becomes. Ordinary does not mean small. It means natural. Wealth becomes something you steward, not chase. Something you move with, not fight. Something that flows through you rather than defines you. This is where peace enters. Not the peace of resignation, but the peace of alignment. The quiet confidence that comes from no longer being at war with life. As this settles, your nervous system learns a new normal. Calm replaces urgency. Curiosity replaces fear. Receiving replaces striving. And from this place, life reorganizes effortlessly. You do not need to remember everything at once. You do not need to be perfect. Remembrance happens gradually, gently, naturally, like waking up from a long dream. The manuscript's final truth is simple. You were never meant to struggle your way into abundance. You were meant to remember your way back to it. And as this understanding settles into you, even as you rest, even as you sleep, the language of your inner world continues to shift. Quietly, steadily, inevitably. Because once you remember who you are, life has no reason to withhold what already belongs to you. Take a slow breath. There is nothing left to understand, nothing to analyze, nothing to fix. Everything you needed from this message has already been received, not by your thinking mind, but by the deeper intelligence beneath it. The part of you that recognizes truth not through effort, but through resonance. You do not need to remember every word. You do not need to replay anything. What matters has already settled, like a seed resting in the dark soil. This understanding will unfold on its own, quietly, naturally, without force. From this moment forward, your relationship with money no longer needs to be tense. Your words no longer need to fight reality. Your future no longer needs to be chased. You are allowed to rest now. As you drift towards sleep, notice how your body feels when there is nothing to prove, nothing to earn, nothing to struggle against. This is the state where transformation becomes permanent, not through effort, but through alignment. And as your breath slows, your nervous system continues the work for you, releasing old patterns, softening old language, stabilizing a new frequency of ease and receiving. You don't have to try to hold this state. It holds you. If this message resonated with you, you don't need to do anything right now. Simply allow yourself to return. This channel exists for moments like this when you're ready to release noise, pressure, and urgency, and let deeper truths reprogram you while you rest. If you'd like to continue this journey, you're welcome to subscribe. New audiobooks are released regularly, designed to guide your mind into calm clarity, inner alignment, and effortless success while you sleep. There is another message waiting for you, one that goes even deeper into the language of abundance and inner authority. You'll find it ready whenever you are. For now, rest. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts soften. Let the work continue beneath the surface. Nothing else is required. Good night.